In this podcast episode, Eckhart Tolle shares profound insights into consciousness, suffering, the law of attraction, and the nature of identity. He offers practical guidance on overcoming stress and anxiety, aligning with the present moment, and manifesting from a state of fullness rather than neediness. The conversation explores how humans become trapped in mind-created narratives and how awakening to presence can transform life and relationships. Eckhart begins by describing the heavy psychological burden many carry, which arises from identifying with the mental narrative of my life. This autobiographical story, comprised of past traumas, failures, and perceived inadequacies, is not the truth of our being, but a fictional sense of self created by the mind. Most people live unconsciously, completely identified with this story, unaware that it generates their psychological suffering. The root of psychological suffering lies not in external circumstances, but in the mental narrative about those circumstances. Eckhart illustrates this with everyday examples, such as irritation while waiting in line or traffic. By observing how suffering emerges only when we add stories and interpretations, one can begin to disentangle from it. He highlights the power of conscious awareness and presence, encouraging listeners to question how they experience situations without mental commentary, thus revealing pain as a product of the mind rather than reality. Spiritual awakening starts when one realizes they are not the mind, but the awareness observing the mind's activity. This awareness, or presence, is a deeper dimension of consciousness that transcends thought and mental identity. Eckhart emphasizes that who we are in essence is this presence, which exists as a light of consciousness beyond the constant mental noise. Experiencing these moments of presence allows for detachment from the ego's grip. Humans relate to multiple layers of identity: physical form, the psychological ego, built from culture, upbringing, and personal history, and essence or being. The ego is a conditioned identity rooted in mental and emotional patterns and is inherently limited and unsatisfactory. True identity lies in essence, the pure consciousness that we are, which is timeless and unchanging. Awakening involves shifting identity from ego to essence. Eckhart addresses why many hold on to painful ego identities and narratives for decades. This attachment is deeply rooted in collective human conditioning, making the ego difficult to dismantle. Often, only extreme suffering or breakdowns prompt people to relinquish these stories. Some never awaken and live their whole lives trapped in egoic suffering, which can manifest as illness or premature death. Beyond personal goals, the deeper purpose of life is to evolve consciousness itself. Human awakening is part of a universal process where life forms gain self-awareness. Eckhart stresses that this spiritual journey is about moving beyond egoic suffering to embody presence, thereby participating consciously in the evolving universe. The entry point to ending suffering is radical acceptance of the present moment's isness. Although life circumstances are invariably imperfect and challenging, the problem arises only when the mind resists what is or fabricates negative stories. By bringing attention fully into the present moment, observing breath, bodily sensations, and surroundings without judgment, one finds a space free from psychological pain. This practice shifts consciousness from resistance to acceptance, releasing suffering. When obstacles arise, the typical ego-driven response is complaint, blame, or despair, which amplifies negativity. Eckhart advises meeting challenges with a conscious, "this is what is" attitude, a state of presence that neither denies nor resists reality. From this place, right action emerges organically. This acceptance transforms adversity into opportunities for growth and reduces mental turmoil. Eckhart reminds that past and future exist only as mental constructs. All experience occurs in the present moment. The so-called future never arrives as a separate entity. It is always now when it unfolds. Aligning fully with the present dissolves anxieties rooted in imagined past or future problems, revealing life as a continuous unfolding of the now. Regarding manifestation, Eckhart critiques the common mistake of approaching desires from neediness or lack. This negative focus on what is missing reinforces suffering and blocks manifestation. Instead, he recommends first acknowledging the abundance already present by cultivating appreciation and gratitude for small blessings in nature, the body, and daily life. This appreciation connects one to the universal flow of abundance. A second law of attraction principle Eckhart highlights is the importance of giving, not out of obligation or ego, but from genuine kindness and goodwill. Acts of giving, whether a smile, encouraging word, or helping hand, create an energetic flow that naturally returns. This exchange opens one to receive abundance and deepens connection with others. Drawing on teachings similar to those of Jesus, Eckhart explains that successful manifestation requires believing that you already possess what you desire. This belief involves emotionally embodying the feeling of fullness, satisfaction, and aliveness that the desired outcome would bring. Feeling this inner completeness is the true source of manifestation power rather than mere mental desire or craving. Eckhart discusses how ego-based desire, seeking material success or status to boost identity, never leads to lasting happiness. Even billionaires or celebrities can be deeply unhappy because egoic craving is insatiable. The ego's nature is constant lack, perpetually pushing for more, and therefore true peace arises only when attachment to ego identity is transcended. Eckhart distinguishes between the horizontal dimension of time and becoming, past, future, goals, achievements, and the vertical dimension of presence, now. Sustainable happiness emerges from alignment with the vertical dimension, accepting what is moment to moment. While goals and aspirations on the horizontal plane have their place, overly identifying with them precludes deep satisfaction and unsettles one's sense of self. Love is described as the recognition of oneness with others, beyond egoic possessiveness or fear. When you awaken to your essence and see it mirrored in others, genuine love flows naturally as goodwill, acceptance, and connectedness. This authentic love contrasts with ego-driven attachments, which are rooted in need and control. Eckhart reflects on his personal journey through phases of deep being, presence and stillness, and active doing, teaching, writing, traveling. Both dimensions are important, though the deep satisfaction of presence transcends the ups and downs of external activities and achievements. If he were to leave behind three teachings, Eckhart would emphasize first the fundamental truth that one's true nature is not the egoic person, but universal consciousness and presence. Second is the importance of recognizing what one is not, namely the ego, as a prerequisite to awakening. Third is the radical acceptance of the present moment's reality as the path to freedom from suffering. Eckhart's view on greatness focuses not on external accomplishments, but on the embodiment of consciousness itself. Greatness is living consciously in alignment with essence beyond ego, fulfilling the deeper purpose of being part of the universe's awakening. Outer achievements, status, or possessions are secondary to this inner realization of presence. On a practical level, Eckhart feels the most loved through everyday authentic interactions where mutual presence and recognition flow naturally, whether with individuals or even with nature itself. He emphasizes that all forms, be it human, tree, or flower, are manifestations of consciousness, capable of resonance and love beyond conceptual explanations.